I know that leading a small group can feel kind of daunting, and so we've created 10 different resources to help guide you through feeling confident teaching your students the scripture you guys are going to walk through. I hope you find these helpful. All right, so in this first resource, the introduction to how to create curriculum, you'll find the objective, what you'll be doing, and then all the steps for how you'll break down scripture. So in that you'll find looking at the text, the context, methodology, this means images, themes, etc., issues, crux, answer, implications, gospel, telos, and then at the end you'll find the why reason behind this. So if you need some help in just breaking down scripture or want your youth to do this, this would be your resource. Second resource we have for you guys is suggested resources for creating curriculum. These are resources that I like to use when I'm trying to break down scripture. You'll find different websites and contacts and information that you can use to create your curriculum. That's one thing I would advise in looking at scripture. Try to compare it with other people who've spent time looking over scripture and actually interpreting what it means. It's super helpful in knowing that you're teaching correctly and just comparing it side by side with other people who've spent a lot of time doing it. And so some resources we have here, desiringgod.org. It's really good for commentaries, articles, and sermons on scripture. There's also some manuscripts on there. Gotquestions.org. It's good for general and specific Bible questions, and they also have some pretty good book and character overviews. BibleHub.com. You can find Greek and Hebrew translations for cross-references and understanding what certain words mean. ESV Study Bible is a great resource. It's even great to have in small groups, so you can have notes right there if you need to answer an immediate question. Bible 316 binders, and also on our website you'll find book summaries, context. If you need a context for a book that you don't find on our website, you can talk to me and I can get that for you. And then, of course, you can always ask Dave or myself if you have any personal questions that are not covered on any of these sources. Third resource is a sample session. So it has a text from John chapter 2. This is pulled from the General Curriculum Training Manual, but just in case you want to look at one of these examples, this would be your guide. So I'll take you through John 2, 1 through 12, the story of Jesus at the wedding in Cana. And it'll guide you through all those steps that you find in the intro to creating curriculum. And in here you'll find little spaces for you to type in your own answer. I would even advise you to do that before you look at the answers that we give. And the reasons for this is just so you can interpret the text for yourself, see what the scripture is showing you and what the Spirit is showing you, and then compare it side by side with some research that we've done. And of course, I know this is really extensive, and so not every single session needs to be like this, but I would say you do want to come prepared to a small group knowing some of the words that your students might not understand, being able to break stuff down like the wine running out, why is that important, etc. And so this is a great resource just to prime yourself in being able to walk your students through scripture. So the end goal of your small groups is to be able to facilitate discussion and help them walk themselves through the scripture. So with that, we hope that you'd be able to ask them some questions based off the scriptures that you've examined and looked at for them. So after you do that study for yourself, or after you have your students do it, you could create some questions of your own. You could use these if you are doing that John chapter 2 study. But again, there's 20 questions in here. You don't have to do 20, but just know your students. If there are people that barrel through questions, then come prepared with a lot of them. Or you could spend a session going through 3 of these questions, and then the next session going through 3, so you're doing more prep at the front end, and then later in the following weeks you're having to do less. This next series in the curriculum resources is just a blank template where you can fill in your own answers if you do want more structure coming into your small groups, or you can even print these off for your students and have them fill it out as you go through a scripture. We have another template for you. This one is the question template. So same thing, looking at the example that we made from the questions off the study. And this is another thing that you could give to your students to have them fill out as you go if they have any questions that they want to ask the group, or if they just have questions they want answered from you or from anyone else on the team. All right, and this last part of the curriculum resources is the full curriculum training manual. So you could use this with your small group if you want to train them how to break down scripture. Again, it has 5 different studies, just like the one in John chapter 2. has everything that you have, that we gave you, like the intro, the resource page. It's just all condensed in one document. So if you want to take your students through this, it might take you a while. It could take a whole term. That's up to how quick your students move, but this is a great study for yourself if you just, again, want to become more primed in being able to do this and feeling confident, or if you want to guide your students through it and have them think critically and break down the scripture on their own. All right, now on to some other resources that aren't necessarily related to creating curriculum. We have a document that explains different lenses through which we hope that you can use scripture with your small groups. God's glory, you have the gospel, you have God's people, you have knowing God, tabernacle, and mission. So if you want to go through this with your students, you can for sure do that just so they have a clear understanding, or you can just reference it for yourself. If you ever have questions on what is God's glory, you could take it here. But we would recommend that you as a small group leader would be confident in knowing these and looking for how Scripture is speaking about these things when you approach it with your students. All right, so the next one we have is a Gospel Fluency Guide. This is a guide where you can take your youth through if you're trying to move them towards teaching and then just really understanding the gospel for themselves. This is a great resource for that. This is one I'm really excited about. So in it, you'll find the purpose for why we're doing this. A big reason is so the students will first feel confident in preaching the gospel to themselves, and then from there that they'd be able to teach it to others. So I'll walk you through the ultimate goal of that, how to use it. There's a step-by-step process, but essentially it's having your youth read several scriptures that are found throughout the Bible that are gospel summaries. So they're going to read that, and then they're going to write down themes that they see, how this gospel presentation is presented, different themes it hits on, and just spend some time unpacking that scripture with the help of you and other people in the group. So you can do this one-on-one with a student, you can do it in a small group setting, but the ultimate goal is that they become confident in being able to preach the gospel to themselves and having different angles of the same gospel that they can present to people, and then ultimately to walk someone else through the same process. So they take the same exact curriculum and then find a few people that they want to teach, whether it's friends or non-believers or family, they can do the same thing. So this is a great resource if you have students that just need some priming in the gospel, or if you're gearing them up towards teaching. And your last resource of all the resources is a very lengthy glossary, and it's from Wayne Grudem's Systematic Theology. So there's some pretty big words and concepts in here, but it is alphabetized. So if you need to find what adoption means, it has a brief summary for you. You can use this, you can pull it up on your phone in your small groups as your students are asking you what some of these words mean. If you're using the Gospel Fluency Guide and they ask you different words that come up in that, you can use this. Or if they just have questions, again, about purgatory or atonement, or different questions they might have regarding the church or scripture or different religions, you can also reference this. So again, it's a really large document. I would just recommend pulling it up on your phone in a PDF, emailing it to yourself, or just pulling it up from our website. All right, that's it. I hope you guys find these helpful. Use them to your discretion if you need them, or if you don't need them, they're all available to you. If you have any other questions or need help walking through some of the material, or if you just have any Bible questions, feel free to schedule an appointment with me through text or email and stop by the offices. Thanks, guys.